The conflict in Syria is on the verge of a dangerous escalation, according to a senior UN official who warned that the cost to civilians could be instant and huge. He made his comments as Turkey threatened to launch a new military offensive. Talks between Turkey and Russia, which backs the Syrian government, failed to reach agreement on how to calm fighting in Idlib, the last mainly rebel-held region in Syria. More than 400 people are reported to have been killed in a major offensive by Syrian government forces in Idlib, which began in December. Nearly 1 million people, mostly women and children, have fled the onslaught, and some are now dying from the cold. It's the biggest movement of displaced people in Syria's 9-year conflict. This report from our international correspondent Orla Guerin in Istanbul contains some distressing images.
Ducking for cover. Even if you can barely stand, it's time to run. With bombs falling nearby, the Abdulaziz family are trying to pack up and go for the 4th time. Take the children inside, says Ibrahim, a parent's instinct. But he knows they aren't safe there either. Ibrahim says they fled their village in Idlib because of bombing, but the war keeps catching up wherever they go. So they hit the road again, joining the exodus to camps at the border with Turkey, which are already overflowing. Small wonder when the Syrian regime and its Russian allies keep dropping barrel bombs. President Assad says he's battling terrorists in Idlib. Explain that to 7-year-old Hiba and her brothers, dazed and frightened after surviving a recent airstrike. Just imagine what his young eyes have seen. Senior UN officials are pleading for a ceasefire, pleading for the global community to remember its conscience.
I think the failure to deal with this is shameful. It is a terrible indictment on the state of the world at the beginning of the 21st century that the international community cannot come together to agree that it's not okay to bomb fleeing women and children.
As the bombing continues, Turkey is pouring more troops into Idlib, where it backs some of the rebel groups opposing the regime. Today, President Erdogan threatened an offensive of his own to stop the Syrian advance in its tracks.
Turkey has completed all the preparations to carry out its own operation in Idlib. As in the past, we could come suddenly one night. An Idlib operation is a matter of time.
But many fear time is running out. They pitch their tents where they may, at the mercy of the elements, at the mercy, if any could be found, of the regime. Here's what President Assad has already done: reducing opposition-held areas to rubble, forcing almost 1 million of his own people to run for their lives in the past 2 months. One aid worker says this is Syria's doomsday. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Istanbul.